We had confidence that even GAN, the first time I met Goodfellow, the GAN was like 32 by 32. And it was just a, blurry image of a cat. But how far can it go?
Leaders come into a situation that is ambiguous, uncertain, confusing, and bring clarity.
All of our senior executives, they work in the future, they live in the future.
Long-term thinking is a giant lever. You can literally solve problems if you think long-term that are impossible to solve if you think short-term.
Our ability to extrapolate and see down the road is really vital because, gosh, technology is changing fast, but it still takes us several years to build a great solution.
If you imagine you're in a car, the faster the car goes, the more you need to look ahead in front of you and you need to anticipate the corners.
We don't do a periodic planning system. And the reason for that is because the world is a living, breathing thing. And so we just plan continuously.
To this day, everything that we can prefetch, everything in the future that we can simulate today, we prefetch it.
Today's AI is kind of turn-based. You say something, it says something back to you. But obviously, when we contemplate multiple options, a decision tree, and we walk down the decision tree simulating in our mind, what are the different outcomes of each decision that we could have potentially made. And so we're doing planning. And so in the future, AIs will kind of do the same. With respect to building a company, the first thing that you have to go very naturally, you start from first principles.
So the normal way that we conduct our lives is we reason by analogy. It's like something else that was done, or it's like what other people are doing. First principles is kind of a physics way of looking at the world. You kind of boil things down to the most fundamental truths, and then reason up from there.
Your organization should be the architecture of the machinery of building the product.
I think Apple's iPhone, the first smartphone that really worked, is another example of complex coordination. Just take a lot of different pieces, and the innovation is to combine them in a new way.
Apple's an incredibly collaborative company.
NVIDIA is not built like a military, it's not built like the armed forces.
You know how many committees we have at Apple?
No.
0. We have no committees.
No committee.
And so it's not sensible to me that if you look at the org charts of most companies, it all kind of looks like this. And then you have one group that's for a business, and you have another for another business, you have another for another business, and they're all kind of supposedly autonomous. And so none of that stuff makes any sense to me.
We are organized like a startup. One person's in charge of iPhone OS software. One person's in charge of Mac hardware.
Or somebody else is build a system for Hopper. Somebody is cuDNN for CUDA for Hopper.
We're organized like a startup. We're the biggest startup on the planet.
We're really built much more like a computing stack with people managing different parts of the system. And who reports to whom, your title is not related to anywhere you are in the stack. It just happens to be who's the best at running that module on that function. On that layer, it is in charge, and that person is the pilot in command.
And we're great at figuring out how to divide things up into these great teams that we have and all work on the same thing, touch bases frequently, and bring it all together into a product. We do that really well.
In terms of information system and how do you enable collaboration, we kind of wired up like a neural network. And the way that we say is that there's a phrase in the company called mission is the boss. And so we figure out what is the mission, and we go wire up the best skills and the best teams and the best resources to achieve that mission. And it cuts across the entire organization in a way that doesn't make any sense, but it looks like a little bit like a neural network.
You have to be run by ideas, not hierarchy. The best ideas have to win.
I'm a fundamental believer in that sense of purpose and culture as the two two pillars that are necessary in order to get a lot of other things right.
Any high-performing organization has to have mechanisms and a culture that supports truth-telling. You have to seek truth even when it's uncomfortable, and you have to get people's attention, and they have to buy into it, and they have to get energized around really fixing things.
Yesterday when I popped into the store, one associate told me once, "Doug, you're just like the Queen of England." And I said, "In what way?" And they said, "Everywhere you go, you smell fresh paint."
I don't want to see a prepared market. I want to see the market as it exists.
You want ground truth and experts the best you can.
I never focus on trying to make a lot of money. I just focus on being as efficient as possible, obsessing over the experience, focusing on every single detail, and getting really, really detailed. I mean, we would immerse for hours on a certain topic. We didn't have strategy sessions. We lived with the strategy. We would have like 20 conversations, not one deep dive. And I think that way of working, which I think came a little bit from my design background, really helped us create this huge business turnaround.
Strategy is not words. Strategy is action.
Yeah.
And so if the company has a set of strategies, but the people's actions, their top 5 things are not that, then they're obviously not executing the strategy. And so the strategy, turns out, isn't what I say, it's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's really important that I understand what everybody's doing. NVIDIA's leadership team is 60 people.
60 direct reports.
60 direct reports, yeah. We don't do status reports.
Yeah.
So it's been distilled and refined, and bias has been inserted,
Yeah.
and perspective has already been added, and you're not looking at ground truth anymore. That is the mission of leaders, to create the environment for others, right? To empower others to do their life's work. And now there's a couple of ways you do that. The most important way that realizing that mission is to not cause people to have to do commodity work. If you want an organization that obeys command and control, then you make it a pyramid, just like the old military, all the way back to the Roman Empire. And but if you want to empower people, then you want to make it as flat as possible, so that information travels quickly. And if you ask me a question about our company's secret, there wouldn't be that many secrets.
That's why we talk about our mission around empowering people and organizations. One of the reasons why I feel at least we have some momentum. I'm very, very careful not to sort of paint this as some destination we will reach or have reached for sure.
I think age-old idea about renewal and rebirth, and like every day is day one, and you are not trapped by what you were or who you were, or you need self-consistency. Self-consistency even can be a trap. You never want to get trapped by history. It doesn't mean you discard history or ignore it, but you can't be blindly following what you've done. And that's the heart of day one. You're always starting fresh.
If your idea is too narrow, part of the human condition is if you see signal that doesn't agree with that direction, you're just going to ignore it. You have an idea of where you want to go. You've got to be open for opportunity. Then you've got to jump at it. You've got to take advantage of it. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes some luck.
Think about the things that are not going to change over 10 years, and those are probably the big things.
Causality for a lot of problems in the world doesn't matter. We just want to emulate the system and predict the outcome.
And so that invoking of that everyday sense of purpose is what I think is going to help us the most.
Where I want to measure momentum as much as I want to measure accomplishment or sheer numbers. Because I actually care about my long game. I want to know that the value that I'm providing can sustain without me pushing it. So in my own personal life and in my business, I'm looking for new ways to understand and measure momentum.
I don't think it's something special about NVIDIA. I think that we had the courage to build a system like this.
In fact, more than hope, I feel that we shouldn't abdicate our responsibility to control our own future that I think we all want to live in.